Good morning, church. Good morning. Welcome on this fine, cold, and kind of rainy day, but it's still a good day to worship the Lord. So, all right. Let's see. Wednesday, the Women's Fellowship will be meeting at 9:30, or just come as you are.
Bring your lunch.
And bring your lunch. For lunch. Then Thursday, the prayer ministry will be meeting at 10 o'clock. We've got pretty good attendance there recently.
We had 7 in attendance.
So that's been good.
Beautiful.
Doing good over there. And then next week is, Sunday school and worship and coffee and dessert afterwards as usual. Sadly, today was the last day of my Galatians Bible study. We're done. We read the whole Bible, read the whole book of Galatians. Read it all the way through and discussed it and talked about it. And it was good. So there you go. All right, and then Alana has things to make some announcements.
I got a letter from the Salvation Army, and it was thank you note. It says thank you so very much for your assistance with our 2018 Christmas angel tree cover. And with your assistance, the Salvation Army has been able to provide gifts for 318 children who live in Coffin County. Your kindness and generosity will always be remembered. So I just want to let y'all know that they were thanking us for that. This is the first time I've ever seen one of these letters, but maybe they send them every year and I just never saw them. And also, yeah, for Coffin County. Well, we did 10. Our group did 10. Also, I think it's been mentioned, but I was talking to Essa, and she just wanted to make sure everybody knows that her birthday party has been canceled for right now, and because she's going to, on Friday, her son is going to be taking her to Houston till she can rehab. So they said that they are going to plan the party again, like 3 months or whenever she gets over her broken thing. So, I just want to let y'all know about that. Thank you.
All right. Any other announcements? All right. Well, I'd also like to, if you look at the back of your, after the final hymn, we have a new membership vow I put in there. So, Michelle is joining us here today, so look forward to that. So, I just wanted to keep everybody's attention on that. Okay. All right, and if that is it, if you please stand and join me in We're a Story to Tell to the Nations. 569.
Story in this worship, there is only acceptance.
For love is the language of faith.
Here in our lives, there are no divisions.
For God wills to each of us. Come, let us worship in unity and love. Amen.
You may be seated.
And please join me for hymn 369, Blessed Assurance. Now is the time in which we lift up our joys and concerns for the family. So, what do we have to lift up for joys and concerns this morning? Yes.
I talked to Joy Solomon the other day, and she said that she was in her closet by herself, and she fell in herself. She didn't break anything, but they kind of set her back a little bit.
Oh, no. All right. Prayers for Joyce and the Solomon family. Betty's.
I would like to thank everybody for your prayers and cards
we need to include the Hampton family again. John passed yesterday.
Prayers for the Hampton family.
My sister Doris is in rehab right now.
Prayers for your, so she recovers quickly. Yes.
I think most everybody knows we're leaving Wednesday on a 20-day trip, and I need prayers for all of us, going for a safe trip and safe return home. Amen.
Most definitely. So, and that's gonna be a fun trip. Like India, Sri Lanka, Dubai. Like that sounds amazing.
Thailand,
Thailand.
and Oman, and UAE, and Dubai.
Wow. I'd like to go on that trip.
I've had several people want me to put them in my suitcase.
Yeah. I just don't know if I could be on a ship. I think I have problems with motion sickness. I have problems with motion sickness. I just think seasickness would just knock me out. Yeah.
Yeah, now she has surgery on her foot, and she also fell.
Yeah.
So we need to pray for her.
And her dog just died.
Her dog just died. So that's
Spike?
special.
One of they,
The boy.
one of they young ones?
The new one?
Oh my God.
That's super sad. Continue prayers for that she heals and mend her broken heart. Michelle.
Teresa loved to have us include her in our prayers. She has this issue with her neck that goes down into her back. They've been unable for her to sleep. That's why she's not here today. So,
Prayers for Teresa and hope she recovers and gets back here as soon as possible. I know she wanted to be here today. So, all right. Any other joys concerns? I'd like to just lift up Michelle's joining the church today, so that's a joy. All right. If that's it, please join me in prayer. Oh, most gracious Lord, we come before your most holy throne today to lift up our joys and concerns. Lord, I'd like to lift up all the members of our community and all those who are just afflicted with medical ailments, the falls, the breaks, the surgeries, all the things, and just all things that cause suffering here, Lord. Lord, just look after them, keep them safe, help them to recover quickly, and just watch after them, and help those who help them keep up their strength and find comfort and give them strength for those hard times. I'd like to also lift up our medical healthcare officials, the doctors, nurses, orderlies, all the people who facilitate care. Lord, guide their hands so that they can bring healing into the world and keep them safe and just bring them home to their loved ones. Lord, I'd like to lift up all those who are traveling, who are sojourning throughout the world. Lord, look after them, make sure that they get to their destination safely and on time, and make sure that just watch over them. Lord, I'd like to lift up all those who've been affected by natural disasters, all the earthquakes, mudslides, floods, hurricanes, tornadoes, blizzards, all the things in creation that can cause suffering, dear Lord. Look after them, keep them safe, and help them to rebuild their lives and to find shelter. Lord, I'd like to lift up all of our military men and women, our fire, our police, our EMT, our EMS, all the people who are just necessary for life to keep going on, Lord. And look after them, keep them safe, and bring them home to their families. Lord, I'd like to pray for our elected officials as well, the people who've been elected to represent us and all the people who've been appointed to manage all levels of government. Look after them and help guide their hands so that they can create a more just world, Lord. that is more in line with your kingdom. Lord, I'd like to lift up all the things that have been said here and all the things that have been left unsaid. For you know what is on the hearts and minds of everyone here, and we put our trust in you, Lord, that you will do what is necessary and what is right in your eyes to facilitate your kingdom here. Now let us pray in the manner that your Son has taught us. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. And give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. Those who are assisting the offering, please go forward. O most gracious God, we lift up this humble offering before you. May this offering go to help to bring your kingdom here at Poetry United Methodist Church and to its greater community. Lord, we give thanks for this abundant offering so that we can continue to be your hands and feet in the world. In your most gracious name we pray. Amen. Today's reading comes from the Gospel of Luke, chapter 5, verses 1 through 11. Once while Jesus was standing beside the lake of Gehenna, and the crowd was pressing in on him to hear the word of God, he saw two boats there at the shore of the lake. The fishermen had gone out of them and were washing their nets. He got into one of the boats that belonged to Simon. He asked him to put it out a little ways from the shore. Then he sat down and taught the crowd from the boat. When he had finished speaking, he said to Simon, "Put out into the deep water, let down your net for a catch." Simon answered, "Master, we have worked all night long, but have caught nothing. Yet if you say so, I will let down the net." When they had done this, they caught so many fish that their nets were beginning to break. So they signaled their partners in the other boat to come to help them. And they came, both boats, and so they began to sink. But then Simon Peter saw it. He fell down at Jesus' knees and said, "Go away from me, Lord, for I am a sinful man." For he and all who were with him were amazed at the catch of the fish that they had taken. And so also were James and John, sons of Zebedee, who were partners with Simon. Then Jesus said to Simon, "Do not be afraid. From now on you will be catching people." When they had brought their boats to shore, they left everything and followed him. The word of God for the people of God. Thanks be to God. Amen. You may be seated, and please join me for hymn 378, Amazing Grace. lectionary text for this week, and I was like, oh wow, this is really fitting for this community. We've been growing a lot lately, haven't we? And it's been great. It's been a good time for us to be the church. And I thank God every day for the growth and for the love and for the community that we have here. And we continue to grow. Today we get to have Michelle join us today. And I think about that. And I think about all the people we've come to know and love. And I think about how joyful I am that I was able to be the pastor here when all of this went down. And I thank God every day for that. And we're doing great things here. Not only are we growing, but the quilting ministry is doing well. Prayer ministry keeps growing too, and it's been great to see that. And but there's always more we could be doing. It's always easy to sit on our laurels and see, oh, look how awesome we are. And we are. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't be gainful and things like that. I just think that there's always more we could be doing. Are we catching as many people as we can in our nets of love and grace? And I think about the communities that I've been a part of. I've been a part of this community, but also the campus ministry. And also I've been part of the world for a while too. And there's something that really spoke to me this week when Simon, later to be renamed Peter, says, "Go away from me, Lord, for I am a sinful man." Nobody really says that language anymore, but the way they say things often points to that. People say, oh, I'm not enough, or I'm not worthy, or they say things like that, but they say it in different ways. And part of being a pastor is listening to these people and trying to discern what are they actually saying. What are the words behind the words often. And I'll tell you, there's a lot of people out there who are racked with guilt every day. There are people who just don't feel like they've measured up enough. Our society tells us we never work hard enough, that we're not earning enough, and our college students are not making good enough grades, or family members have abandoned them. I've seen that look on people's face. And I think to myself, all the people who've come to the church thinking that they're not worthy to be in the church. And then I wonder, what kind of people have they been hearing that from? I feel sad for them. Some of the greatest people I've met in campus ministry and in just ministry in general have been people who found some kind of assurance in all of it. In all the uncertainty, and people today are guilty when they buy a drink with a plastic straw in it. And the thing is, though, is like, in our Galatians lesson today, we talked about Christian freedom. That we are free as Christians to pursue to being better than what we are. Because I always tell people, our God is not a God that compels you to be a part of God's grace. It is given to you freely so that you can choose to accept it and to live into it. And that freedom, our freedom as Christians, is the fact that we don't have to worry about we don't have to worry about a giant book in heaven where there's a mark over here for when we do something good, and there's a mark over here when we are bad. Because the marks don't exist. Because God's grace covers us and gives us the freedom to not worry about every little thing, but to worry about the big things, and to worry about us being better people every single day. I think that's great. That's the good news to the world. I was listening to I listen to a podcast for sermon prep, and one of the things that they said is often what preachers sometimes forget is that this is good news. That this is something that we are supposed to be telling people that, hey, guess what? You are forgiven. And that God has asked you to be better every day. He's not telling you to be better every day. He's not forcing you to be better every day. He's asking you to participate in being better. And here, Jesus is starting to recruit his disciples. And we all know how flawed Peter is. At one point, Jesus says, "Get behind me, Satan," when he's talking to Peter. And this is supposed to be the rock in which he founded his church on, depending on your theological line. It's just, she steals the show sometimes. But then I think about another time in the gospel. Look at Matthew, chapter 28, verses 18 to 20. And Jesus came and said to them all in authority, all authority in heaven and earth have been given to me. Go therefore and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, and teach them to obey everything that I have commanded you. And remember, I am with you always to the ends of the age. I think that's the very end of Matthew. When we call that the Great Commission. I have heard that multiple times from people who go off on missions and people who just every day go out into the world, who do ministries with homeless people, who do all the things that are necessary for us to go out into the world and spread this good news. I have a lot of friends who don't like the Great Commission. They don't like missionary activity because they think it's colonializing and it's imperialistic and things like that. But I've seen such great work come out of missionary work. And when I talk about missionary work, I'm not talking about far-flung places of Africa. I'm talking right here in our communities. Dallas has a large homeless population. And I met a man who's a deacon, and all he actually, it's funny, he's a deacon out of Highland Park. Probably one of the places that you're not going to see a lot of homeless people, but that's where his office is. But you'll see him oftentimes downtown Dallas handing out blankets and spreading the gospel among these people who need to hear it most. He's actually special. He's a deacon who's been given baptismal authority because of how many people come through towns and stuff through homelessness. He doesn't know if he'll ever see them again. So he's baptized countless people that he may never see again. But he's doing something good. He is spreading the gospel of Jesus Christ. And for me, when I see the commission, I don't see it just as us going to all the other nations. It's also here. It's also seeing how our society becomes more just and more great, and when we, embrace one another as human beings. Not only are we bringing people into the body of Christ, but we're bringing them into the kingdom of God. And by spreading this gospel and by bringing people into the body of Christ, the kingdom of God becomes more and more every day. I've seen communities grow, and I've seen communities shrink, and I've seen so many different things happen in the church, and I see so many good things happening, and I see so many sad things happening. But all the while, I still have hope in everything. That the church is still saying something today, and it's worth hearing, and it's something that the world needs to hear. One of my professors was going on and on about how the church is dying and how all of you probably won't have jobs. And I'm like, that's great from our preaching professor. And I told the whole class, I said, well, that might be your experience, but my little church in the woods over here has had, people join it every day, has had a lot of people join it recently. And I can only chalk that up to one thing, and that's the grace and love of God. That's all I can ever look at. And I said, if we put our trust in that, we don't have to worry about anything else. But the church is saying something today. It's something that brought me in, and it's something that will continue to bring people in. And I think we need to stop focusing on decline or whatever. We just need to be the church. And we just need to say something to the world. But also let us celebrate and rejoice that our little community keeps growing. We will celebrate Michelle joining our church today. And we will celebrate the future of our church. And we will celebrate the future of our larger United Methodist Church, but we will also rejoice in the universal church. The church in which everybody who's been baptized is a part of. Because I think we can still do that today. So many people are naysayers, and so many people want to make, they want to make money making books about how we're dying. But I want to proclaim to you that we are fishers of men and women, and that we will always be that. And as long as we keep doing that, and we keep trusting in the love and grace of God, we have nothing to fear. I know it's, a lot of my friends, I have a friend who's like, I don't like the church because it's about money and it's about institutional power. And I'm like, if I wanted institutional power, there's a lot of other places I could have been than a pastor. The world seems to just keep going by while we just, they just ignore us, which I think is a good thing, because I think then they underestimate us. They underestimate what we have to say and how much we can actually impact the lives of every single person we interact with. And I thank this community, and I thank the world, and I thank Christ for our growth, and I thank Christ for the growth in our church. But I also want to challenge us to say that we can keep doing better. We are not here to just sit and be like, oh, look how great we are. We know how great we are. We know it, or I know it, y'all know it, the bishop's starting to know it. We'll get there. And we'll keep fighting, and we'll keep being who we are here, the little church in the wild woods. As long as Dallas doesn't start coming this way. But we'll always be that little church in the wild woods. So keep up the faith. But also remember, we still got work to do, guys. I say this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. If you'd please stand and join me for hymn 593, Here I Am, Lord.
I
As a member of this congregation, will you faithfully participate in its ministries by your prayers, your presence, your gifts, your service, and your witness?
I will.
All right, this goes to you guys now. Members of the household of God, I commend this person to your love and care. Do all in your power to increase their faith, confirm their hope, and perfect them in love. Will you join me in the response?
We give thanks for all that God has already given you, and we welcome you in Christian life, as members together with you, the body of Christ, and with this congregation of the United Methodist Church. We renew our covenant, faithfully to participate in the ministries of the church by our prayers, our presence, our gifts, our service, and our witness, that everything God may be glorified through Jesus Christ.
The God of all grace, who has called us to eternal glory in Christ, established you and strengthened you, that you may live in grace and peace. So, in the Methodist Articles of Religion, it says that all things necessary for salvation are here. I would also like to say that I think the next little part of that is to make sure that you're in a community of love and grace. So here. All right, now let us circle up in fellowship.
I don't know if you can do that.